AI is already in your life. From the way Netflix recommends your next show to how Google Maps shows you where to go, AI is everywhere. But what is fascinating is the way that AI is being used for health and wellness. From sleep tracking to personalized food guidance, it's helping us to see patterns in our body which we would never have noticed otherwise. Things that the human brain would miss. AI seems to be picking up. And it's life changing for some people. And we have one such guest today. So join us for this incredible conversation. This is Anshu Bahanda from Wellness Curated. Welcome to the Wellness Algorithm. We go beyond quick fixes and hype and explore what really works in health and wellness. Before we proceed, can I please request you to subscribe to this page so we can carry on getting you these life-changing conversations and speakers without charging you a penny? AI can feel like a buzzword. It can be intimidating, it can be overwhelming, but in health, it's moving us into a new era. From this one size fits all advice to truly personalized, accurate wellness. My guest today is passionate about health and wellness, and his day job is in AI at AWS. He's sold an AI business in the past, and he's also very, very passionate about health. So his two interests are AI and health. We're going to delve into how he combined the two to help himself and how it was life changing for him. Welcome to the chat, Amandeep, and thank you for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you. I'm excited to have this conversation.
I want to ask you, Amandeep, for listeners who are new to this, what do we mean when we say AI in health and wellness? Because the word AI can overwhelm and intimidate people.
That's a good point. It can overwhelm people for sure. So I'll give you my definition of how I think about it. What AI is, how we can think about AI in the context of health and wellness. There's multiple layers to it. We can think about AI in the context of drug discovery. We can think about AI in the context of back-end operations of clinic efficiency. We can think about AI in the context of more on the clinical side with patients, right? So all of that exists. But for most of your listeners and for people like you and I who are trying to be as healthy as possible, live our best lives, AI is a powerful tool or set of technologies available to us to make sense of our own health data, to make sense of protocols, to come up with ideas to help with diagnosis, and so on and so forth. It's essentially empowering us as consumers with more information and more intelligence so that we can be better about our own health and wellness. That's how I think about it.
So you explain it in a very user-friendly, simple way, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the technology is only as good as what the users are able to get out of it, right?
Yes, absolutely. Now, tell me, for most of us, where do we encounter AI on a daily basis? Apps, wearable trackers, where would it be familiar if you told people, okay, so, your Aura Ring has AI,
Yeah.
things that would be.
Again, there's multiple layers to AI, right? So all your wearable devices that collect data, um, at some level, they have some intelligence built into them. It may not be the most sophisticated intelligence when they give you reports and tell you something about your resting heart rate or how you slept or your readiness score and so on and so forth. May not be the most sophisticated intelligence, but it is still some algorithm that's built into it, right? So one could call that AI, because the
Mhm.
definition of AI is it's a spectrum of things, right? Uh, so I would say all your variables, all your apps, trackers, and even things that your doctors use to give you different kinds of reports. There's some technology, some intelligence technology built into almost all these things. So as individual consumers, all the apps that we use, they have something with the other.
So now I want to ask you another thing. Life can be very complex, but you can break
Yeah,
it down
yeah,
to fairly simple stuff. We all need sleep, we all need food, and we all need ways of dealing with stress in the world that we live in.
yeah.
So, if someone wanted small wins, how can AI actually help them with these? Three
You know,
things.
yeah, it's a funny thing that you're asking. If someone wants small wins, how can AI help? The biggest win that you can get of those things that you just talked about is make sure your sleep is in order. And that has nothing to do with AI, that you're sleeping well and you have a good, consistent sleep schedule. And AI has nothing to do with that. In fact, quite the opposite. You want technology out of your bedroom and get the best sleep
Okay.
possible. So I don't think you need AI to help with just basics, getting the basics right. Now, as we get more advanced, as we try to figure out, I try to optimize things, try to figure out why something is not working. Some of the data tracking and the intelligence becomes useful. But to get the basics right, I don't think we need to overcomplicate it in most cases.
Okay, so just coming back to sleep, right? You're saying technology should be out of the bedroom, but there's so many people, and I don't wear an Oura ring, by the way. So you
Sure.
know where this question is leading to. I
Yeah,
don't wear technology on me, especially when I'm sleeping.
yeah,
But people are swearing by this Oura ring because they're saying it tells us the sort of day we had, and therefore the sleep it leads to.
yeah.
Technology. That's
No, for
AI today.
sure. For sure, for
Yeah.
sure. I think this gets into the conversation of what data and how much data is useful and what do you do with data. So I think we should talk about that because it's not just the intelligence. The intelligence is interesting, but it's the underpinnings is the data and what's useful to track, how much is useful to track, and what's the sweet spot there. About the Oura ring, I'll tell you an experiment that I'm running right now. I don't have, I have not concluded yet that this is true. Anecdotal evidence tells me this, that my HRV had dropped
Hmm.
over the last several months. And I had a bunch of hypotheses for why this might be happening. Then I heard
Hmm.
somebody or came across somebody making the claim that some of these devices cause HRVs to drop. So I said, okay, cool. I'll run an experiment. It's pretty easy. For 3 months, I didn't, or 2 months, I didn't use the Oura ring. And then I wore it back. No other changes. So everything else is the same. Lifestyle is the same. No other changes. Minor changes here and there. And my HRV almost doubled.
Oh,
And
wow.
so again, this is very early data. I'm not convinced that there's a causal relationship here, but it seems to point in a certain direction where now I'm more curious and I want to go look into this further. So sure, now
No, I
let's
mean,
just,
just for people who don't know, Amandeep, can we explain HRV? Just so people are very
yeah, heart
clear.
rate variability, right? So heart rate variability, HRV stands for heart rate variability. And so it's also not just the heart rate variability, it's also my resting heart rate at night. So I've seen that go
Hmm.
down a little bit. That could just be statistical error in the data. But heart rate variability is a better sign of recovery. And
Hmm.
my heart rate variability has improved over the last couple of months. And it looks
Oh,
like there might be a relationship to the technology.
interesting.
So,
Because that,
yeah,
okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, this says that varying the technology and collecting the data, useful, yes, but there might be some side effects of this thing that we are just not aware of.
Mm. Of this or
Constant
any
use,
technology.
or any, yeah, exactly. It could be the Apple Watch,
Constant
could be the
use of
Whoop.
any technology. And
Correct,
I very
correct.
often worry because I always have a phone on me, as a lot of people do.
The phone is probably going to have the same effect.
Yeah. And it's literally stuck to my hand
Yeah,
because I use it for everything.
yeah,
And it,
yeah.
it does worry me because isn't HRV, the higher the HRV, the higher the stress? No, sorry, the lower
No,
the HRV, the higher the stress. It's kind of inversely related to stress,
correct,
correct?
correct. It's correct. It is stress and recovery overall.
Yeah.
Yes, it is inversely related.
Now tell me, so we've kind of talked a little bit about sleep and stress. Talk to me about food,
Yeah.
about how can AI help people with food or how they can
Um,
use it to help with their
I think,
diets.
yeah, I think the more important thing here is uh, to to understand what data is useful, and then think about
So,
what
Amandeep, I
intelligence
was
is required on top of
slowly
the data.
taking
Yeah.
people, sorry
Okay.
to interrupt, but I was gently leading people into the data thing because people seem to be so worried about data. That's the one
Yeah.
thing which
Yeah.
just, so many people are so intimidated by it. So I was
Right.
gently leading them into
Right.
data.
Right. Right.
But go
No,
ahead.
yeah. Uh, again, food or exercise, I think the key thing here is what data are you collecting, and then what intelligence do you want on top of the data, right? So the way I would think about AI is if I have a set of data about my sleep, food, stress, exercise, uh, overall health, I'm going to give it to a human being that's going to, let's say, a coach or a doctor that's going to make sense of it and then tell me, you should eat this, you should not eat that. So it's a nutritionist that's going to give me some plans. It's a exercise physiologist that's going to give me exercise plans and so forth. I'm going to go to a professional that's going to give me some of this information, and AI can potentially replace some of the things that that professional can do. Right. So that's the way I think about AI. The question is, what data do I need to collect to make this useful? And that goes to the health goals. And that then tells you what data is relevant and useful for those health goals. Now, there are some basic things that I would consider are appropriate for pretty much everybody that is trying to take a data-driven approach to their own health. We can go down the food, sleep, exercise, and just general blood markers. So on the food front, I find it very, very useful to start to track food, everything that I'm eating. Like I'll weigh it, I'll put it in a tracker like a MyFitnessPal or chronometer. And what I'm looking to track for the most part is my macros, saturated
Mhm.
fats, and total caloric intake. And then
Okay.
not just through the day, but per meal as well as through the week, right? So that's what I'm looking to track. And the reason I
Okay.
track that, yeah.
I'm going to interrupt you again.
Mhm.
Before we start getting into what data to collect for these different areas, can I ask you to best explain to the listeners who feel overwhelmed by
Yeah,
data or privacy, because that's a fear. Before we get into actually talking about the data, explain to them what should be their starting point and what should they
yeah,
worry about and what shouldn't they worry about. And then we'll get into what data they
sure,
should track.
sure. You brought up privacy. That's an interesting topic. I've heard people be pretty concerned about privacy. And I've also heard people take a completely different stance on privacy and saying, none of this is that important that I need to keep private. I generally take the stance of none of the things that I'm going to use or none of the data that I'm going to put in these apps is that important from a privacy perspective. So, did I eat eggs in the morning or did I have a smoothie? Who cares? Right. So, I take a much more open stance on it. I think about privacy as it's a trade-off conversation. If you're online, you're using Facebook and Google and any of the social media things, you probably have much lesser privacy than you think you do. These tech products and companies know much more about you than you think they do. So there's that. Now, do I want to give it? Do I want to put some of my super private information onto an app that just somebody just built around the corner? Uh, maybe
Mhm.
not, maybe not. But I generally take a much more liberal stance on using technology here from a privacy standpoint.
Okay.
So again, that's my personal stance. Now, for people who are just starting out, I think getting the basics right on, let's just track what you're eating. Let's just
Mhm.
track how many times a week are you exercising and what type of exercises you're doing. And just getting
Okay.
started with that is actually very, very helpful. And
Mhm.
then having your blood markers, tracking those, and then tracking your sleep. The interesting thing about sleep tracking is you could just be using a simple paper form to track sleep quality and sleep quantity.
Right.
And that's what sleep specialists use, by the way. Sleep specialists do not use Aura and Whoop. They use a simple paper form, and you can look it up. This is
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
I've
That's
worked with sleep specialists,
fascinating.
and that's what they do. I said, "Hey, I have my Aura. I'll give you access to my Aura," and they said, "No, no, no. We don't want that. That's for you. You can keep doing whatever you don't want to do with the Aura. We want to know how you're feeling. So write it in the form. There's something about using a paper and pen to fill up a form, and then take a picture of it at the end of the week and send it to us." Okay, yeah. So there are forms. You don't need technology for this. Those pretty basic stuff there.
Okay. So, so you're saying just keep track of how you're sleeping, what you're
Yeah,
eating, and put that into the likes of a MyFitnessPal or something.
yeah.
Those two things, and how much you're exercising, what kind of exercise are you doing?
Yep. Yep.
Those are your suggestions. You tracked for years, right?
Yep.
What kind of data did you collect and why did you
All
do
the tracking that I'm talking about, you could just use a journal or just paper and pen to do all of this. You don't need apps.
it?
Now, of
Okay.
course, apps make it easier in a lot of cases. For example, just calculating your macros. You put it in MyFitnessPal. It's much easier than if you put it on paper and then you go Google, how much does that egg have? So yes, these things make it easier for sure, but you don't need the apps to get started. On my own tracking, so I've had chronic metabolic challenges since my teenage years, and I've dealt with obesity since the age of 15. And uh, about 10, 12 years ago at this point, I started to just get into details of studies and different kinds of protocols. And I just got curious about metabolic health and started reading and learning. From there, then I started tracking my own data. And it started with just a simple set of blood tests to
Hmm.
then getting body composition through DEXAs to then sure I was tracking my food to was I tracking my sleep at the time? I don't remember. I probably didn't start with sleep tracking at the time. But later on, I did add sleep tracking to it. So over time, I am probably collecting much more data than useful in most
Okay.
cases. But I am a data geek, so for it doesn't overwhelm me. I actually enjoy it. And that's not true for everybody. If you look at like if I just talk to my wife about this, she says, I don't need to track all of this. I'm going to sleep. I feel fine. I'm okay. I don't need an aura ring, which is totally okay, right?
Probably a
Uh,
reaction to you. Maybe that's a
it's
reaction
very
to
much
you.
possible.
But
It's
you're
very
trying.
much possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's overcorrect. She's correcting for me. Yes. So I generally take a much more data-driven stance, and I've also found that there is diminishing returns, right? So the more I know about my blood markers over, let's say, 3-month intervals as compared to 6-month intervals, it's not that I can act on it or there is anything to act on. But I still collect the data because I just like data. That's what I do. That's my day job generally. So
So, so tell me, when you analyzed
yeah,
all the data that you tracked with AI,
yeah,
what specific health issues did it reveal to you which had escaped the human eye? Because I remember you and I chatting about it, and you were
yeah,
just it blew you away.
yeah. So the context of the data that I'm collecting, let's talk about that a little bit, and then I'll talk about some of the challenges I was working on, and then how I used AI to uncover some interesting things that made a difference. So over the last, let's say, 10 years, we'll just say the last decade, I've got blood tests every few months, let's say every 6 months, all in a spreadsheet. It used to be in a spreadsheet. Now, and then DEXA scans every 6 to 12 months. I've got those are the two big ones. Then sleep tracking with Aura, etc. for the last few years. I've got my genetics done. I've got a couple of different kinds of genetic testing done. So that's the basic data that I'm working with. And then, of course, I track my weight regularly. I track. I already said sleep and body comp. So those are the things. Now, I've now started tracking over the last 6 months. I've started tracking my blood pressure with a continuous blood pressure monitor. So
Okay.
now, last year, I was working on, and still working on the metabolic fitness side of things. So this is about a year ago.
Hmm.
And what I was having a hard time, even with the caloric intake where I was in a deficit, I was having a very, very hard time losing weight and or losing fat. So my goal is not to lose weight, it's to lose fat. So it's a body composition goal.
Okay.
And as again, my blood test showed elevated insulin levels, but my glucose levels are fine. But insulin levels were elevated, and that's how it's been for quite some time. But this time I saw them much more elevated than usual. And I had done my genetics and I'd done all these blood tests. I put it all into ChatGPT at the time. And I said, oh, let me just see if there's anything interesting. We'll just kind of play around and see if I can find something useful. I had no idea what I'm going to discover. I had no idea what I was doing. This was just playing around with it at the time. What ChatGPT gave me, and there was a couple of genetic reports as well, was it said that, I have a couple of genetic SNPs, because of which there is a high correlation those have high correlation with high amount of saturated fats will cause or can cause insulin resistance. And high
Okay.
amount of branched chain amino acids can cause insulin resistance. So let's talk about what those things are. Saturated fats, types of fats that are found in full fat dairy or red meat, coconut oil, and so forth. On the other hand, unsaturated fats are in the likes of nuts and olive oil and so forth. So my diet did include saturated fats. We would use ghee
Mm-hmm.
and coconut oil for cooking, and I would use butter. Um, and when it was yogurt, I enjoyed full fat yogurt as opposed to non-fat. Now, so that was that. And then branched chain amino acids are amino acids that are typically found in most protein sources, especially animal protein sources. Now, I have generally taken a stance of more protein, less carbs. And so I would take protein shakes as an example. So let's say I need to get to 150 grams of protein in a day. I would easily take 1 or 2 scoops of whey protein and make a little smoothie out of it. Again, I keep it pretty low starch, low sugar, but I would consume protein shakes. Um, okay, so now branched chain amino acids, I'm consuming them through the protein shake, and saturated fats, I'm consuming them through dairy and meats. Now, I don't like red meat much, so that was not a problem, but it was mostly the dairy and the butter where the saturated fats is going in. Now, that piece of information, it didn't say that this is causing it. We don't know if this is a causal relationship. It said that there is a tendency, there's a chance, there's a
Right.
higher risk of insulin resistance. So fine, I'll
For
run an
you
experiment.
in
For me,
particular.
yeah, because I have those SNPs. So um, and so I said, okay, why don't I run an experiment? I'm going to keep my calories the same, and I'm going to cut out saturated fats and replace with unsaturated fats. And I'm going to cut out protein shakes, and I'm going to try to get the same amount of protein through each chicken breast. And so that's what I did. Thought I'm going to do this for a couple of months and see what happens. And I start, and in about 10 to 15 days, I drop 10 pounds. And my insulin comes down from 16 to 9. And that was just mind-boggling. I said, okay, I don't believe this. This doesn't make any sense. Again, I've been tracking all my food, so I know my calories were the same. Or maybe the calories have gone down a little bit because eating that much chicken breast is just hard.
Mhm.
So they've probably gone down a little bit, but not by 3,500 calories a day, right? That is what would explain 10 pounds of weight
Wow.
loss in 10
Wow.
days. I certainly didn't drop my calories by 3,500. I wasn't even eating 3,500 a day. So, okay, so now, right, this doesn't make any sense. Uh, Now, keep in mind, I'm doing DEXA scans. So I know that this is fat loss. I know
Hmm.
this is not water loss. So I continue the thing and I go for another couple of weeks, 3 weeks, and I drop another 10 pounds and my insulin levels stay below 10. So
Oh
it's
my
like, this is
goodness.
fascinating. This is really, really fascinating. So I've changed my dietary pattern entirely. Entirely. As in I've cut out saturated fats. I don't take saturated fats on a day-to-day regular basis. It's all mono unsaturated fats or polyunsaturated fats. And I've stopped consuming protein shakes. I
So
still hit my
interesting.
protein targets.
This is so fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, was
Did
it
it affect your
ChatGPT?
energy levels? Or did it just help
Oh,
with
wow.
weight loss? Did it also help with energy levels and other long term? You said insulin levels came down.
Came down. Yeah, yeah. I mean, of course, just having 20 pounds of fat lesser in the body helps with everything, right? So blood pressure dropped a little bit. I was more active. I could I can go for 2 hour walks and hikes. And so, yeah, from that perspective, yes, energy levels were better.
Fascinating. So, and this is something that no doctor picked up for you. This is
Nope,
something ChatGPT.
correct.
Because I know that you've had a team of doctors that you work with
Yep,
who help you with your health issues.
right. Yes, yes, I do. But yeah, nobody picked up on this thing. And there have been other cases where I've used AI for analysis of a bunch of things, and my doctors have generally said that that level of analysis and data crunching is it's just not possible. It's not practical for them to do it, and and they generally have found those analysis to be useful in coming up with protocols for me.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And tell me, besides changing your food patterns, what else did you change based on the analysis done by AI for you? on your data?
I think this was the primary one. Just from a data perspective, in that example, it was food.
Mhm.
Um, the exercise and sleep stuff, I have not yet, at least not at the time. I did not get much out because that was not what I was looking at. Now, there are other examples of me using AI for, diagnosing some other issues, which I can talk about those. But in that instance, it was food.
Okay, fascinating. Okay. And did you ever how can AI use with sleep, help with sleep and stress? Those are really big ones
Yeah,
globally,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I tried this where I take a screenshot of my aura day to day, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
took the graphs and I took those screenshots and I put it into ChatGPT and asked it questions, right? So for instance, I've I've taken screenshots of that and my CGM, and there were
CGM
continuous
being,
glucose monitor. So I'm tracking my
okay.
glucose levels. Again, that's another set of data that I track. Um, I've taken that, put it into ChatGPT at one point because I was finding that my sleep was not very restful,
Mhm.
and my heart rate was going up middle of the night. So I fed all of that information into ChatGPT, and it pointed to um, my liver producing glycogen or dumping glycogen into the bloodstream middle of the night. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the reasoning it gave was that it's either a stress response, which like I'm sleeping, there shouldn't be a stress response. It's not that I'm having nightmares every night. Um, or it could be that I didn't eat enough carbs through the day, in which case the body is trying to compensate, or liver is trying to compensate by producing more or releasing more glycogen into the blood. Um, so one of the things it said was at dinner time, add about 30, 40 grams of carbs and see what happens. And
Interesting.
and I tried that. Again, this is something that a nutritionist will also be able to pinpoint. But again, if I went to them and said, I'm not sleeping very well, they wouldn't, that's not where they would go.
They won't associate it
They
with
won't
carbs
associate. Correct. Correct.
necessarily. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. The mechanism, of course, they understand the mechanism, but they wouldn't have connected the dots that easily.
Okay.
Um, and also, I wouldn't have taken my sleep issues to a nutritionist, right? So there's that.
Mm.
So I tried that, and yes, I stopped having the glucose secretion at middle of the night, and my heart rate didn't go up.
Wow. That now that's fascinating.
Yeah,
That's where you come also. It's looking at you holistically, right?
correct.
It's looking at you as the holistic organism that functions. It's
Yeah,
not just obviously the prompts you've given it are important, and you obviously gave it very clever prompt. What tends to happen very often is that we focus on one issue. So we're like, we're not sleeping, we're not sleeping, we're not sleeping. This is
right.
just looked at you
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the whole and said,
yeah.
what could be wrong where in his body? And that's what it found.
Which is generally hard for doctors to do. So you asked a question about my team of doctors missing things. Um, it's I would not go to my nutritionist and tell them about sleep issues. I would not go to the sleep specialist and tell them about my diet.
Mhm.
And they're not going to help me optimize my diet. So it's just they're specialized in those topics. But for them to take a complete picture and connect the dots, it's just hard.
Amandeep, I would love you to share some other sort of aha moments
Yeah,
with people just to
sure,
give them an idea of what can help them
sure,
with
sure, sure.
AI in their health.
Yeah, I'll give you another example. This is relatively recent, and again, I've actually written about a lot of this on my Substack, and you can put a link to that in the show notes.
Yes, we'll put a link
Um,
in the
yeah, yeah. So
chat.
a recent
Mm.
one where I was one Sunday morning just doing my workout, and this particular instance, I was trying to do some squats. I started doing my warm up. I was in the second set of my warm up, not picking up very heavy weights. It was just kind of getting moving. And halfway through the set, I feel something snap in my back. Now I've had injuries in the past, So I know when something doesn't feel right in the lower back because I've had lower back injuries, and this one just didn't feel right. So I left everything. I left the weights. I left everything, and I just lie down. Half an hour later, I kind of just move around and say, okay, what's going on? This doesn't feel right. I shouldn't be injuring myself during a warm up. And it's a very
Hmm.
slow set. I'm easing into it. What's going on? So a couple of days later, again, this was a pretty bad injury. I was barely able to move. A couple of days later, as I was able to move and do some things, I said, let me go figure out again. Let's try if I can get something interesting out of AI on this one. So I have my own tracker app now that I've built, which tracks a lot of data for me.
Right.
And so I plug that, and that is now integrated into AI. So I go and ask the LLM some questions, and I'm using Claude in this case, and I ask it some questions. I say, I've been feeling low energy, which is true at the time. I also injured myself doing this workout. And so can you help me think through what might be going on? Go analyze all my data. So it has access to my continuous glucose monitor data. It has access to my sleep data from Aura. It has access to my all my blood markers and supplements and meds, and it has all of that. And it also has access to my exercise data from Whoop. So it goes, crunches through the last 6 months of 6 to 9 months of data, and comes back and actually surfaces up that, oh, you've had low ferritin, which is true. I'd had low ferritin for some time. And there is this change that has happened in your sleep architecture over the last 6 months. Plus, you've had low ferritin and the hormonal shift over the last 6 months. Again, I knew about the hormonal shift. All of this would point to this phenomena with the muscles pushing on strength training may not be a good idea. You risk injury
Wow.
because of these things. And this might explain why you're feeling low energy and less strength. And to me, again, I knew about low ferritin. I knew about the hormonal shifts. So that was not surprising. But connecting the dots of that
Mm.
to
Mm.
how I should be changing my workout planning,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I'm not going to feel that strong. So pushing it might be, risking injury, which is exactly what happened. Connecting the dots was super helpful. Now, my doctors were working on both those problems, but they hadn't connected the dots into my exercise programming.
Fascinating. That's absolutely fascinating. Now, tell me another thing, Amandeep. With so much data that you collect, right?
Yeah.
And you get AI to analyze this data for you. More often than not, it must be giving you an action plan and telling you that something may not be right because we're human. Does it ever make you anxious or obsessed about, oh my God, or what's happening to me? How do you set these boundaries for yourself that
Yeah.
I'm going to
That's
switch
it.
off
That's a great
my health?
question. Yeah, that's a great question. Anxious? No, it doesn't make me anxious. Obsessed? This is a bit of an obsession for me. So yes, but again, it's more of my mindset and my temperament is one of taking a data-driven approach. I want to know things. Not knowing gives me more anxiety than knowing, which is not true for everybody. Some people prefer not knowing, right?
Okay.
I prefer knowing.
So you always want to know.
Correct. This is not the only topic where that
Okay.
happens.
So do you think you would tell people who it could make anxious, that, okay, you track it for a certain amount of time and then go take a break and come back to it every week or
Oh,
every 2 weeks?
for sure, for sure. I think the data is only as good as what it empowers you to do. If it does the opposite and overwhelms you, it's not serving its purpose. Um, but lack of awareness is also not helpful, right? So if you are trying to accomplish some health goal, whether it's weight loss or better sleep or whatever it might be, if you use data, you can get there faster, more efficient, and just have a better plan.
Are there any situations where you would say, please don't bother with AI now, you need to go to a doctor straight away? Someone who's listening to this, who's assimilating all this information you're
Sure,
giving
sure,
them.
sure, sure, sure. Well, AI is not a replacement for a doctor. So everything that I do, um, I run it by my doctors. So this example of the ferritin, low ferritin causing issues, I did the analysis and sent it to both my doctors. And they looked at it and they said, yeah, we agree, and your plan needs to change. This makes sense. I wouldn't have changed my plan or my medicine dosage or anything like supplement dosage without running it by the doctors. So
Okay.
it's not a replacement for doctors. It's empowering you with information. It gives you ideas. It actually makes it easier to go and have those conversations with doctors because you are more informed. In my case, I'm more informed, and they are more informed now. So they like it too.
Okay. So you're saying this is not replacing human beings. Don't
Not at
just use
all.
it to guide you. This shouldn't be your only guiding light. You
That's
need to
absolutely
go to
right.
your.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because
That's a
AI,
very good point.
we have the hallucination problem with AI, so it can give you things that are not accurate.
Hmm.
So
So yes,
yeah.
so that's an important point that everyone needs to note is use this data and use the information you're given and take it to your doctor. Okay, I want you to talk to me about the future. What is it
Mm.
about? What is the future of AI? What really excites you about health and wellness by 2030, say?
Oh wow.
Not
Uh,
that far away.
in the world of AI, even 18 months is very far away. Everything that I say might not be true in
That's
six
true.
months.
That's true.
Yeah, things are
That's true.
moving very,
That's
very
very
fast. Um, I think the empowering of the individual with more intelligence is actually very exciting. And then there will be a point where we will be able to trust AI-based solutions as our first line of defense from a medical
true.
perspective, right? So you can take pictures of things, and ChatGPT will tell you. It does it today, that
Mm-hmm.
this is what it looks like. So the tech is getting there. I think by 2030, I'm fairly certain we'll have some AI doctor solution available
Mm-hmm.
as a first line of defense. Um, and it's not just going to be
Okay.
the first line of defense, even for optimization. I think the optimization piece is way sooner than that. I mean, I do it already.
Anything that you think by 2030 is 5 years away. Anything you think in 4.5, 5 years, which is going to be drastically different from today in the
It's so
context
hard to
of
predict
health
it.
and AI.
Yeah, it's so hard to predict. I think so. We're mostly talking about health optimization for individuals. We haven't talked about drug discovery and things like that. So I think there's a lot of promising things that can happen on that front, on just drug discovery, for example.
Mhm,
But we're mostly focused on the individual. I think on that front, this more and more information. We already have the ability to track a lot of information. Um, there's probably some other things that I'd like to be able to track, which are just not available right now, but it's not that far out. In the next 5 years, I think just synthesizing all of this and having our own little longevity apps, it's probably going to happen in the next 2 years. I know a few people that are working on this. Drastically different. Actually, the interesting thing about this is human beings are not going to be drastically different in the next 5 years. It's not the
are you
technology,
sure?
it's our inability to change our own behavior that comes in the way.
You- Are you sure? Are you sure we're not going to? Because things are moving so rapidly.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure behavior change for you and I will still be as hard as it is today.
Okay. So, lastly, before we get into the rapid fire round,
Yeah.
I want you to give us something really interesting. For
Yeah.
people listening, I want you to share a 7-day starter kit,
Oh,
like
wow.
a
Okay.
starter to use AI wisely and see the benefits of, for their health and wellness.
Yeah. Depending on where the individual is, um,
Mhm,
if you're collecting, let's say you're using all these apps, like you're using Aura to track sleep, you're using, Whoop for workouts, MyFitnessPal for food tracking. Let's say you're using all of this and you're tracking a lot of the information. Try to feed this into the likes of ChatGPT and ask it questions, right? And ask it questions like, okay, given my last 3 months of data, what are the trends you see? Here's my focus area. What do you think I could be doing better or different? So let's see what it says, and then interact with it to ask more questions and see what you can get out. Um,
what about people who haven't tracked
Yeah,
anything?
yeah, yes. So
Then,
let's go to that one next, right? So if you're on the spectrum of I have not tracked, but I'd like to track, I'd like to get started. If you're there, then just start using some of these apps. Again, you don't have to buy devices. Whatever devices you have are fine. You can start tracking with even just paper and pen, right? So I went for a 1 hour walk. Write that I went for a 1 hour walk. Um, and then, of course, if you have a device, then you know what your heart rate was during that 1 hour walk. Um, and so start with that. Uh, get a comprehensive set of blood tests done if you haven't done that already.
Mhm.
At least once a year. Getting a comprehensive set of blood tests would be helpful because all of that then completes the picture. And
Mhm.
then once you start this tracking, the interesting thing about tracking is, let's say food and exercise. Let's say you say, I want to be eating 2,000 calories a day, want to get to 100 grams of protein, or whatever your macros and caloric goals are. And the moment you start tracking, you actually get better at adhering to the plan. So yeah, so it's not just having a plan, but tracking it makes it easier, and you get better at adhering to the plan.
That's fascinating, Amandeep, because you're such a data geek. There are so many people I've had conversations with who said, we don't want to know.
Yeah,
We'd rather not know.
sure.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
interesting. They're like, no, 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 it's too
yeah,
complicated. The doctors will find something, especially as people get older. They either go more towards, oh, we want to track our data, we want to find out
yeah,
what's going on, or they go the other way. They say, no, thank you. We're getting older, there'll be an issue, it'll settle down.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. No, totally. Again, that's just a temperament and a mindset thing. Some people like it, some people don't. Yeah,
okay. Thank you, Amandeep. Thank you for
you're
that
welcome.
very interesting conversation. Before you go, I want to do a very quick rapid fire round. So tell me if it's myth or fact and one line why. Yeah?
Hmm.
Ready to go? AI can replace your doctor.
Not yet. Eventually, it
Okay.
will, but not yet.
Okay. So the doctors need to start thinking of alternative jobs.
Or I won't say that. I'd say that they need to figure out a way to work with AI and be more effective at their job.
Okay. More data always equals better health.
Not true. Not true.
Why?
You can have more data, not act on it, and just be overwhelmed by it, and actually could hurt more than help.
Okay. Wearables are medical devices.
They are not medical devices because they're not medical grade. So I
Right.
wouldn't call them medical devices. Yeah,
AI can tell you exactly how many calories you burn.
not true. Not true. They're all estimates. Yeah, at best, and they're mostly inaccurate.
Data privacy is the biggest risk of AI.
I don't think so. It is a risk, but I don't think it's the biggest risk.
AI can predict illness with 100% accuracy given the right data.
Not true. Not true. Even doctors can't predict illness with 100% accuracy with all the data in the world. So no, there's
Uh,
always some error there.
Okay. Thank you, Amandeep. That was a great conversation. Thank you so much for being here
Thank you.
and for
Thank you for
taking the
having me.
time out. What I love about today's conversation is how it showed us that AI isn't just a tech toy, it can be a health companion for each one of us. Amandeep's story proves that when you use it wisely, AI can uncover blind spots, guide your choices, and even improve your well being in ways you never expected. If this episode helped you in any way, please subscribe to the Wellness Algorithm and leave a comment. We don't charge you for this podcast. Your support helps us bring you even more inspiring guests. Share it with a friend who's curious about the future of health. And remember the three C's: be curious, be credible, and be compassionate to yourself. I'm Anshu Bahanda from Wellness Curated, and I can't wait to see you next time.